the most striking memory of that time I had. I think it was Bunny Wheelers was on stage. And I remember who was on stage, but I knew that the dawn caught us. And there was Mr. Tosh on his unicycle and riding around stadium on his unicycle. It was something. I just remember as a child, first, you don't see anybody on their unicycle. Yeah. I saw this man on his unicycle, and I must say that a lot of eyes were drawn from the stage to Peter Tosh on that unicycle.
My name is Tanya Batson-Savage.
And I am Mel Cooke. You are listening to Echo Chamber, Writers on Writers, part of the Voices of Jamaica podcast series, made possible by the Alpha School of Music with support from the Public Affairs Office at the U.S. Embassy, Kingston.
Today we are speaking with 4 Jamaican writers, each telling us about an outstanding Jamaican writer they knew well, whose words continue to echo in this creative chamber, which is Jamaica, after their passing.
Professor Mervyn Morris, former Poet Laureate of Jamaica, will speak about Louise Bennet Coverly, who died on July 26, 2006 in Toronto, Canada, at 86 years old. He edited Miss Lou's 1982 collection, Selected Poems.
Multi-instrumentalist and poet Mbala will tell us about dub poet Mikey Smith, who was deliberately hit in the head with a stone in Stony Hill, St. Andrew, Jamaica on August 17, 1983, dying when he was only 28 years old. His album, Me Can't Believe It, had been released only a year earlier.
Singer and songwriter Nadine Sutherland speaks to us about the Stepping Razor and Bush Doctor, reggae artist Peter Tosh, who was murdered in Barbican, St. Andrew on September 11, 1987. He was 42 years old and earned a posthumous Grammy win for his No Nuclear War album.
And finally, Owen Blakka Ellis, poet, serious comedian and theatre practitioner, gives insight into the life of dub poet Jean Binta Breeze, who died in Sandy Bay, Hanover on August 4, 2021, at 65 years old, 5 years after her collection, The Veranda Poems, was published. Prof. Morris, thank you very much for being with us here in studio this morning, and welcome to this version of Echo Chambers. Mel and I are going to be talking to you about the inimitable Miss Lou. And so, yes, how are you feeling about being here with us this morning?
Well, I am happy to be here, finally.
and Mel looks down.
All right, so let's get rolling. So what was your first encounter, or was your first encounter with Miss Lou, through a recording or a live performance or her text? How did you first encounter her?
I think it was probably just through the newspapers. When she started writing for the Gleaner, writing in the Gleaner, we used to read them aloud at home, or some of them. And that was when I knew that I enjoyed what she was doing. That was really the first thing, I think. And there were some books that came out after she'd been writing a few years.
And when did you actually meet Miss Lou?
Again, I have to be a little vague about it. I'm not sure when I actually met Miss Lou, but I certainly used to admire her in pantomime because I used to be taken to various shows. I got to know Miss Lou, really, when, after the publication of Jamaica Labrish and its success, Sangsters decided that they wanted an edition to be done for schools. And because I had written an early essay that had been commended by Rex Nettleford, who wrote the introduction and notes to Labrish, they asked me if I would do an edition for the education system. And then I had to be going to see Miss Lou once a week over quite a long period.
And where did you go to see her?
I used to go up to her home in Gordon Town. I went first and talked with her about what I was hoping to select for her selected poems. And she gave her general approval. And then when I started to arrange them into sections in a proposed book, I would take questions and comments, because in the selected poems, there are some teaching questions, and there are also some comments that would help people to know more about where the poem is coming from and what's happening in it. So I would try them out on her, and she would approve or would give me some indication of what should be perhaps a little different.
What is your most treasured writing by Miss Lou? Which one do you treasure most?
I can't think of any one thing. I can think of several things that I draw on whenever I'm trying to talk about Miss Lou, because they are good examples of what she can do in various ways. I suppose one might pick one of the really best-known ones, which would be Colonization in Reverse. Mm-hmm. And I also have a special interest in the poem about the one who goes Pass for White. Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
And my interest in Pass for White, for example, is sort of a teaching interest and also a writing interest, because it's a poem that allows me to demonstrate pretty clearly that she didn't just throw these things together, because the crafting, especially in the positioning of the rhymes, is extremely skillful. Okay, you've got pass and white playing against several rhymes on pass, several rhymes on white. And the ones that are not that actually are carrying the same message, complexion versus education, and so on. So her crafting is one of the things that I most admired in Miss Lou.
Do you remember where you were when you heard that Miss Lou had died?
No, I don't.
You don't?
What I remember, though, was being sort of one of those who was invited to be at the airport when the body came back.
Yes.
But I remember that. But I don't remember the moment when I heard that Miss Lou had died. I knew she was pretty ill because, she was in touch with various people, sometimes including me, for many years. So, no, I don't remember the particular moment.
Prof. Morris, Tanya and I thank you.
Profoundly.
Thank you. Thank you.
We thank you conventionally. And we thank you in the sense of activism, in the sense of that smiling activism as well. Hello, Umbala. And for everybody else, that is Umbala saying hello, as only he can, and he does regular. And Tanya and I thank you for being here.
No problem.
Yes, and thank you for talking to us about a very important writer, Michael Smith, better known to persons as Mikey Smith. Was your first encounter with Mikey Smith's work through a recording, a live performance, or the text on the page?
Just from being amongst Mikey at drama school. Because we went to drama school together way back when in about 74, 75, something like that. Before Edna Manley was built.
Yes.
When drama school was just a shed over beside Little Theatre. And we had classes in the garden and in the shed. It was strictly part-time. That's where I met Mikey.
So when you say came in together, you were in the same year group, the same intake?
Yeah, we were in the same group. I tell you, it's like there are some little things you remember that just stick in the head, some little, not important things, but one of the memories I have of Mikey and drama school was we were in the shed beside Little Theatre where they keep all the props, so it's not particularly very clean. And we were doing an improv one time, and I was a dog, and Mikey shot the dog. And then he proceeded to drag the dead dog all over the dirty floor. And I couldn't do nothing about it because I'm dead.
What is your most treasured writing or work by Mikey Smith? I feel weird just saying Mikey. I have to say the full name. It just feels like he's the kind of person you refer to as Mikey Smith,
Well, that's a hard one to answer. I mean, them are roots. I say that because there's actually a connection between them are roots and me. Because them time we used to all write and we used to share with work and stuff. And Mikey come to me one time and he said, boy, Mbala, I write Roots Part 2. That was the original title of that. Because I had written a poem called Roots, where him read. Mm-hmm. And him said, write Roots Part 2. I said, forget about the Roots Part 2 business, man. He even used a few lines out of my poem in it. But those are the kind of way we used to interact in them time there, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that kind of made a connection with me. One word for describe Mikey, intense, right? Intense. Sometimes I go into the extreme of intense. But intense, man. And when you use patois and you use it without thinking too literary, that's when the emotion and the rawness come out.
When you say intense, it's not intense only about writing and theatre. It is intense.
Just one intense, brethren, man, everything.
Coming to school is intense.
Yeah, him not approached on no halfway business.
Do you remember where you were when you heard that Mikey had been killed?
No, I remember I was probably at home and somehow heard it and couldn't tell you exactly where I was because it was kind of like, it's funny, I think that almost universally when people heard about Mikey, you can't believe it just came up people's head. Everybody just thought that. Mm-hmm. I can't believe it. It was just like one of them things where just come out of the blue and just hit you.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
So, Nadine, what was your first encounter with Tosh's work? Was it, with recording, live performance, how
his work, I thought was
his
with
work.
him.
Yeah, his work.
Okay, it would be a recording. Mm-hmm. And, I was giggling at the first time I saw him, but I'm going to giggle also with the first time I heard him. I think he was being played all over the place, but we lived up in Above Rocks and around the corner was the bar.
So that your first experience of Tosh then was not in home, not at a party, but from that bar.
I would say my first significant of Tosh because I must have heard him, but that resonated with me more than anything else. He's a popular star, but you hear about Peter Tosh as a child, processing.
When did you meet him?
I was a little girl and I saw him. I don't know who he was upset with. And I remember this just like, he was just, I don't know who troubled him or who, and he was like, this is mine too. He was asserting himself. But, I was a child and I wasn't paying attention and he went somewhere and he was sitting. And that was the first time I laid my eyes on him. But obviously he knew about me. No. I think the second time I laid my eyes on him was when Bonnie Whalers did his show called, and I've never gotten credit for this show. The first time Bonnie Whalers performed live, it was after Bob died. But it was insignificant. I just did 2 songs. Starvation on the Line was popular at that time. And I remember vividly singing and the Starvation on the Line, and then it was like, he performed also. But then the most striking memory of that time I had, I think it was Bonnie Whalers was on stage. And I remember who was on stage, but I knew that the dawn caught us. And there was Mr. Tosh on his unicycle and riding around stadium on his unicycle. It was something, I just remember as a child, first, you don't see anybody on their unicycle. Yeah. I saw this man on his unicycle, and I must say that a lot of eyes were drawn from the stage to Peter Tosh on that unicycle. So I remember I have those memories of him before we spoke. Yeah. And those are the 2 vivid memories I have of him. I never remember his performance. I remember Bonnie Whalers' performance. I probably was sleeping throughout everything because I was a kid. But I remember waking up at that time of the morning and just seeing Peter just around stadium track on the unicycle.
Let's talk about the actual meeting.
The actual meeting of Peter Tosh. We're in different age groups and all that. The actual meeting of Peter Tosh that I can recall is that my father drove up one day from, I was in 6th commercial at St. Andrew High School for Girls. I never forget it. And he said, Peter Tosh wants you to sing on his album. And I was like, really? Peter Tosh.
Right.
You know, you kind of understand Bob Marley and Peter Tosh. You're a 17-year-old girl. You know, it's not like you're a little girl and you're kind of not processing it. So I'm in my sixth form and I'm nervous.
Yes.
And I go in the studio and I remember going there and there he was. I've only sang background vocals at the church in Above Works, New Testament Church of God, the blood that Jesus shed for me. I sang the alto. Okay, I'm very, very proud of myself. I sang the alto with Miss Daisy. That's about it. You know, I'm a lead singer. So I knew I could sing harmony, but you know, it was overwhelming. I'm always a lead singer. And I remember my throat was closing up. They were giving me the harmony to sing and I'm so nervous. And then Peter, the patience of that man, I wasn't getting it. I was just nervous. I mean, the patience, the love, that man voice did not fluctuate with any form of agitation. I'll never forget it. There is no thing of impatience. It's like, try it one more time, man. Try it one more time. I think he recognized it was the first time for me. The level of his love to me. Because, you know, some people be like, all right, you know. And then he was like, you know what, make her sing the high harmony. So he wanted to get me relaxed first. So if you listen to Nuclear War, you actually hear, every time I hear it, I always remember. You hear my voice going, we don't need no nuclear war. With nuclear war, we won't get far. We need a Holocaust.
Do you remember where you were when you heard that Peter Tosh?
I have to.
I
think it's... You know, I think so, like the other day somebody said, you know, you might have been traumatized by that moment. Remember, I went to the States, coming back home to do background vocals for Peter Tosh. I was excited. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go back home now for Peter. He spoke to me. And like, I think somebody come and said, Peter Tosh dead. I was like, no. Peter can't dead. Me and Peter go on tour. You know, I'm going back home. I have my ticket. You know, Peter talked to me. I think, I don't know who I called and they said, yeah, it happened. I think I just laid on the bed for a whole day. The disappointment, the horror of how he was taken from us. You know, I was like, the shock always of death. Because you chat to somebody, I tell you, say, you go rehearse with them and the next thing you hear, say them dead. You know. It's a horrible moment. Came back in time for his funeral, though.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing with us. Thank you.
How are you doing, Mr. Blakka?
I'm good and thankful.
Was your first encounter with Jean Breeze through a recording, a live performance, or text? Or you just CR?
None of the above. My first encounter with her was as a student at the School of Drama where we started at the same time in 1978. She joined like a semester late, I think, but she joined the same first year that I was in. That's the first time I met her as a student, really. But we know that she was a student who came from Hanover and she had been working with JCDC before she gave up that to come school to become a drama student.
Is that how you met her work? It's particularly her poetry. You met it while at drama school?
Yes, because at that time, she had not yet totally claimed her space as a poet. She was an actress, and she was writing songs and poetry as part of schoolwork. She hadn't yet begun to write with a view to publish and perform. Mm-hmm. That emerged like about a year or so after, like about second year, she began to write. That's when she did her first book, Answers, that was published while she was a drama student.
Okay.
What's your most treasured work by Jean Breeze?
It would have to be Rhythm Ravings, the Mother Man poem that everybody love. But for me, because I know the period of her life that gave birth to that poem, so I know the backstory behind it. So for me, it's just a wonderful example of how she was able to blend the personal and the creative in a way that she created a poem that everybody love and it was known across the world. But it was her own personal experience that was traumatic, and she made it into this wonderful piece of theater. That for me is her defining work.
And would you care to tell us a little bit more about that personal experience that she put into the poem? Would you be comfortable telling us about that?
Yeah, because she was okay with talking about the fact that she had mental issues, schizophrenia, She would love to say that one time her mother mortgaged her house just to pay for treatment for her. And so it was a difficult period. There's a story that we hear that she had a traumatic experience with an accident as a driver, and a child died, and she never got over it. And from that moment, whenever something really serious happened, it was triggered, and she just became two different people, really, you know. And Jean had this wonderful way of everything had meaning. Everything connected was about where she was at that time. Her work, the name she chose, everything was about what was happening then. Even the name Binta was when we were trying to create new ways of naming ourselves. And I named her Binta, which means close to the heart, because we were really tight, brethren and sisters. But everything that she did had meaning, was intentional about the moment that she was in.
You remember where you were when you heard that she had died?
Yeah, man. I was in the Edna College staff room, because by that time she was calling me every week. She called myself, she called Lantonette Steins, and she called Faye Ellington almost every day or every other day in her last days. And she would call me and tell me she was celebrating things like, you know, the trees outside, that nice palm tree, and the breeze nice, and the mango tree leaf. And she was the simple things of life. She was just finding beauty in that. And she was looking forward to her children coming to wash her hair. Her son was in Jamaica, which is not very often, and they want to come help her wash her hair. And she was just on about that. And that was the Sunday they were going to come and wash her hair, the Sunday. She didn't call the Monday, and she didn't call the Tuesday. And I thought, well, I should call her. And then I opened a WhatsApp group and saw somebody say, Jean Breed R.I.P. And I just closed it and called her number. And her daughter answered and said, Blakka, Mommy gone.
Thank you, Blakka, for sharing your time, your mind, your memories, all of these things. It was interesting and entertaining and educational to walk with you down this breeze.
I'm never born.
My name is Mel Cooke.
And I am Tanya Batson-Savage. You were listening to Echo Chamber, Writers on Writers, part of the Voices of Jamaica podcast series made possible by the Alpha School of Music with support from the Public Affairs Office of the U.S. Embassy in Kingston. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Echo Chamber.
For more information about the Voices of Jamaica and the stories they tell, please visit the Alpha School of Music website, alphamusicja.com, and click on the Voices of Jamaica link.